Hi there, my name is Riël Malan, and you are listening to Shapers, Makers, Builders and Breakers. We are well into Season 2 of Shapers, Makers, Builders and Breakers, a podcast show that started as a passion project during my sabbatical in 2019. The guest that I've interviewed so far underlines the depth of leadership and vision that Africa has, and I'm thrilled to showcase Africa's finest minds on this podcast. My recipe remains the same, telling the thought leadership stories that needs to be told by someone that is not a journalist. I approach this podcast as a simple peer-to-peer conversation with amazing people asking the questions that I would like to know. The reaction that I continue to get from the public through these conversations remains inspiring, and I thank Eyesizwe Capital for allowing me to continue with this project as part of my day job. Should you have any interesting people that you believe should be featured on the show, please email me at rielmalan@me.com. That's RIELMALAN@me.com. Please enjoy the conversations with me as I continue the journey with Shapers, Makers, Builders and Breakers. Season 2 is brought to you by Eyesizwe Capital. Eyesizwe Capital is a leading private equity fund manager that through its 12-year history have focused on investing in African businesses with purpose and impact. Eyesizwe covers the whole African continent with investment teams based in Cape Town, South Africa and Nairobi, Kenya, currently managing investments in 9 African countries. The core investment thesis revolves around partnering with exceptional businesses and their teams that have the ability to impact Africa in the decades to come. Eyesizwe does this through providing growth capital to these businesses, but more than that, leveraging a partnership ethos with the companies they invest in. For more information, please have a look at their website, www.eyesizwecapital.com. That is www.exeocapital.com. Joshua Ngoma have had multiple successful careers. His success is underpinned by an ethos of giving, collaboration, and in his words, an abundance mentality. In a world where the shortage mentality is more prevalent, Joshua's philosophy of generosity, giving, and the development of others is refreshing and have translated into great financial success, but more important than that, success in leaving a lasting legacy in the lives of the students he puts through his training programs. He serves as a great role model in Africa of what a true leader should look like. Please enjoy my conversation with inspirational mining and agri-entrepreneur Joshua Ngoma. I'm thrilled to sit today with an entrepreneur that has a phenomenal vision, but he's more than just an entrepreneur. He's a teacher. He's become a teacher. He has a very specific vision for the youth around skills. He has a very specific philosophy about life and specifically about agriculture, which is something that's very close to my heart. It's where my roots are from, as many of you would know. So it seems like we're both sons of the land, which is fantastic. But Mr. Joshua Ngoma, thank you very much for spending a bit of time with me today and sort of to just highlight a phenomenal story that's unfolding here in this part of Johannesburg. But welcome to Shapers, Makers, Builders and Breakers.
Thank you. It's a pleasure that we can sit and chat.
Definitely. So I always start with, where a person comes from and sort of what formed them and what shaped them and what brought them to this place. So maybe if you would allow us to take us back to sort of your formation years and how your road has winded to the point we are sitting here in the offices of the organization that you founded 7 years ago.
I'm a Zambian-born South African. My father was an ex-soldier turned businessman. He built 3 strong businesses in about 7 years. He started teaching me business when I was 5. But unfortunately, he was killed when I was 6 going 7. And as it was at that time where families were not protected, his relatives came and they took everything that we had. So we came from a situation where we had a lot of stuff to almost having nothing. But I decided at that young age that I was not going to depend on anyone. And so I started business around the age of 7. And again, that was in agriculture. I used to grow veggies and tomato, and I could sell to people, and so I could make my own cash. And then when I was around 15, I went into photography. So I used to make a lot of money out of photography. Then when I was 10 to 18, I got a travel document, and I was into import-export. And
so that entrepreneurial gene has been was triggered by your father, but it's been there from very early on.
Yeah. So that's where the entrepreneurial side comes in. But at that time, with no father and a mother that didn't have much education, because of the principles that our founding father, Zambia, put in place, especially on education, we had true free education. And that is Dr. Kenneth Kaunda.
And it's interesting, you're the second guest on this podcast who's credited Dr. Kaunda with laying the foundation for a generation of Zambians who's been really excelling and doing well.
I think because he was a teacher himself,
yes,
I think he valued education quite a lot. Because when Zambia became independent, I think you had just about 100 graduates, the whole country. And of that, I think it was one or two that had a degree that was more leaning towards technical issues. All the colleges and the universities were built under his leadership. So I happened to be smart. And I was top of the grade from grade 1 up to form 5. And because of that, I had the advantage of being sponsored. So under his leadership, under KK's leadership, I had 100% sponsorship by Zambia Consolidated Copper Mines. So I went to study in the UK, where I obtained my Bachelor of Engineering in Mining Engineering with honors. And I came back to come and work for the company on the Copper Belt. A lot of my colleagues that were with me, they decided to stay behind to get jobs elsewhere. But I felt that the country had invested in me. And it was just a good thing to make sure that the country uses that knowledge to come back. So
bring it back.
Even when other people persuaded me to find me jobs elsewhere, I said, no, I think my heart is in Africa, so I'm going back. And I went back. And so I don't regret that decision, because integrity is about honoring your word. And if you have, whether it's written or not, if you've said that you are going to meet certain obligations because of what someone else has done for you, you have to meet that. If you don't, then you stop being what you should be, because a man's word is his bond. If you say you're going to do something, you must do it. And so I went back and I spent time on the Copper Belt for 6 years. I was on the Copper Belt. Then I went to small mines unit. I was transferred to Lusaka head office, where I was involved in the marble project. And they sent me to Italy to go and train in marble quarrying and processing. And I came back and I helped set up Prime Marble Products. And then once that was in place, I was transferred back to the Copper Belt. And it was there that when East Africa was opening up, and the people found me there and they liked what I was doing. So they persuaded me to come here. When I was reluctant.
This was what year? Where did you move?
Just before the first general elections.
The 94, 93, 94.
93, they invited my wife and I to come. There was a function and we were guests of honor. And it was during that time that they showed us around to see if we liked the place. And we thought it wasn't as bad as we thought. Television used to show you these pictures where you felt, no, that's very violent. I wouldn't want to be there. But having come here personally in 93, the picture was different. So 94, we decided to move to here. I came just 2 weeks before the first general elections. And I've been here ever since, and I've helped with the development of the country. So that's how I found myself here. So I spent almost 3 decades in mining, both working for other people. And when we came to a group of black professionals came together and they formed the Eyesizwe, and they wanted to be part of that. So I worked with the team, and then we grew that business, and then Eyesizwe Mining then, which I eventually merged with Kumba to form Exaro. And then I took a short break of 2 years to go and help out at Anglo Platinum as a group manager for new mining technologies. Then after 2 years, we decided to form another company, Tranta Holdings, with the same group that formed Eyesizwe. And I took that business from ground up And we were into early stage exploration, and then we went into mining equipment manufacturing. So we were into winches, gensets, and then we got the handheld drilling business of both Longyear. And then while I was there, then I became terribly ill, and that forced me to early retirement. And that's how we bought this place.
This was what year?
I retired in 2012. We bought this place in July 2012, and we started the construction in October. We finished the end of 2013, and I went through a lot of medical personnel. They couldn't find the problem. Mm-hmm. After I finished this place in 2013, I was in Australia, and some colleagues of us may come to visit us. And the wife is a nurse with a PhD, and when I explained what the problem was, she advised what I should do. When I came back here, I went to see the specialist that she recommended I should see, and they discovered the problem. And so I went through 2 major operations, and I got better.
And lived to tell the tale, which we're all very thankful for.
And so it was like God was trying to reassign me to something else. And it was when I was in hospital that I conceptualized the Enterprising Africa Regional Network. By the time I came out, I had the full concept. So that was February, March, September. We opened the doors and we started the Enterprising Africa Regional Network.
So maybe that's a good segue to sort of move into, you've conceptualized the concept while you were in hospital. So maybe give us sort of the rundown of the key principles of what EARN stands for, what EARN is trying to achieve, what the philosophy that you developed during, and it's not a philosophy you developed, obviously it's a life's philosophy.
Yeah.
So you'll be starting with having an entrepreneurial father, losing him early, having that impact on your life, having to fight to better yourself and to gain an education. So it's a life's work that sort of culminated into what you've established here with EARN. So if you could maybe just give us the headlines of what EARN is all about.
I think one of the things is throughout my life, I've always wanted to share everything that I have. Maybe unconsciously, I felt that if the people that took our staff had their own staff, maybe they wouldn't have done what they did. But I only realized that much, much later when I was here, when people used to ask me why I do what I do. And I used to do unconsciously, I always wanted to help other people. Every time I had something, I wanted to make sure someone else has. Even now, if I buy food, I can't eat without asking someone if they would like a share, because that's how we grew up. We grew up sharing everything. So when I was in mining, I've always enjoyed developing people. And so when I sat here after we finished building our residence, and I looked at what was happening in the country and with a high unemployment rate, I realized that the problem was that we are training a lot of people, but you don't have a lot of job opportunities. And so my thinking was, why don't we develop entrepreneurs that can create jobs instead of people that are looking for jobs? Because the only way that we can develop this economy is when we got more people creating opportunities for themselves and others. And so my focus was more on the youth because they're the ones that are most affected. And my message is, if as elderly people we have failed you, you need to take everything into your own hands.
Take responsibility.
Take responsibility and create something, and we'll be there to guide you and to give you whatever you need for you to achieve what you want to do. And so that's how Enterprising Africa Regional Network was formed. So Enterprising Africa Regional Network, the acronym is EARN. So the idea is that if you want anything in life, you have to earn it. The flip side of that is, so Enterprising Africa Regional Network says that by Enterprising Africa, we are enabling people to earn for themselves instead of waiting for handouts. But the flip side also says no one owes you anything. You want it, earn it. Mm. And so initially we developed programs where we were just giving people business principles in all sectors. But when the UN Sustainable Development Goals came out a year later in 2015, we started looking at them and we thought, I think let's align our business with the Sustainable Development Goals and let's choose one goal which has got the biggest impact. And I looked at agriculture as being one that would be that because, first of all, it ensures food security, but at the same time, that's the biggest employer in most of the developing world. So that's how we started now getting into agriculture business. And this place was rocky. There was no water.
This is now where we're sitting here is the training center, the agricultural training center of EARN.
Yeah.
Here in the West Rand of Johannesburg.
So in Centurion.
Sorry.
Yeah. So see, if you're going to teach people something, you must know how to do it yourself first. So everything that we teach people, we do it first and then we teach them. So we started agriculture. Coming from mining, the rocks that were here were not a problem because I knew I could use machine to take all the rocks out. So we took all the rocks off the 21-acre place, which we've piled where you're going to use them for building. We searched for water and we found a little water. And so we went into water efficiency methods. So the whole idea is that because young people are seen to shun agriculture, in order to attract them, we need to go into modern farming methods with high levels of technology so that agriculture shouldn't be the last resort when you don't have anything. It should be the first.
Shouldn't be the stepchild of employment. It is a cutting edge, high tech field between genetics and agronomy. There are fantastic technologies available to be very efficient and very successful.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why we use modern methods. So we focus more on horticulture, undercover production. So we got this place, which is 8.5 hectares. We got about 1.1 hectares undercover. And we grow fresh produce here. And that's why we do the training as well. And we got 100-hectare farm in Elandsfontein with about 7 hectares undercover. There we grow flowers. Mm-hmm. I think we are among the 4 major producers of chrysanthemums in the country. But we're expanding into food as well.
Okay.
And our philosophy hasn't changed. Our philosophy is still, we want to develop young African entrepreneurs in the agriculture space that will be able to create profitable and sustainable business to create jobs and increase levels of prosperity while ensuring food security. That still remains our philosophy. And that's our vision. The production areas we have and the facilities we have enable us to achieve that, because we can give them the practical knowledge of how this is done. So because we produce commercially, we are bringing them in a commercial environment where they learn everything. So we provide the training, both the technical and business. We would like to get them access to land because our program is a 360 degree. So we want to settle the guys ourselves. We want to help them gain access to funding. We have created a lot of markets and we want them to supply the stuff through our market outlets. And we got a lot of partners that are into supplies of both infrastructure and farming inputs. We want them to gain access to them as well. So
it's a holistic approach.
It's a holistic approach. So it's not just giving you knowledge. Is we want you to apply that knowledge. So like we got this program where it's a 12-month program divided in 2 phases. Activate is 3 months intensive, 20% in class and 80% in the field. And then you got the accelerate, which is 9 months where you practice what you've learned. So in 9 months, we rent you these facilities and you have to apply what you learned to grow stuff to expectation, high quality, that you are able to sell on the market. Because what you do...
So it's a pilot project, really,
yes,
of what you will be exposed to when you become a full-on
your own
agricultural entrepreneur on your own land.
Yeah. And the money they make during the 9 months is theirs.
Okay.
If they are sponsored. If we put in our own, then they can use that money to pay for whatever they are doing.
And how many students do you put through this program per year?
We have, when we started, it was just before COVID started. Mm-hmm. So we prefer to have 10 at a time. So Activate is 3 months, which means every quarter you can put people through Activate and put them on the ground every quarter. At the moment, we've got 10 that we've found land for in Balale now. And they should be...
so in theory, about 40 students per year.
Yeah.
By the time they move out. And I mean, it was interesting when we had our discussion beforehand was that your approach is not only holistic towards the education components, or also holistic towards the person that you are. So you're not only just training a skill.
No.
You're also drilling into the person's self-esteem in terms of how he manages himself. So maybe just expand a little bit what your philosophy and your approach is around that.
You see, we are all born geniuses. But we only demonstrate our genius if we are placed within our natural space. Our education system, because of the way it's designed, they take people with different interests and they put them together and they teach them the same stuff and they test them using the same standard. So if I'm not very good at maths, I'm forced to do maths. And if I don't do well, they say I'm down, but I'm not.
You have a different skill.
Yeah, I've got a different skill.
And it's about finding out what that skill is.
Exactly. So the first thing is to get people to understand that they are geniuses in their own way and that God doesn't create junk. And so first and foremost, you need to understand that you are special. No one is superior to you and you're not superior to anyone else. And that's my belief. And so let's use your strength, because at school, if you're not very good at something, they say work harder. But in business, you need to focus on what you're good at because that's how you do things better. But most importantly also is to understand that because our brains were evolved during the time of scarcity, we tend to have that scarcity mentality when we go into the world. One of the things that we train people to do here is to move them from the world of scarcity to the world of abundance, because
there's enough for everyone.
There's enough for everybody. If you don't have enough pies, just bake more pies. And so the whole idea is, that's why we look at the 6 C's of critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication, which you use for skills development. But you got the other 2 of citizenship and character. Citizenship is about looking at how can what I'm doing right now benefit someone else in order for us to create a better world. And
paying it forward, expanding the benefits that you've been blessed with.
Exactly. And the second thing is the character portion is everything that you do it ethically. Do it the right way. And I always say to my team members is whatever you do, make sure that you do it the right way. And everything that we've set up here, we make sure that it's correctly done. We don't cut corners. We don't take bribes. We don't give any. We pay our taxes. And everything has to be in order. That is character. Because you know that when you go to bed, you should sleep well knowing that everything that you did well. And that everything that you did, someone else benefited. And when you wake up, you should say, what am I going to do that's going to make this world a better place? When you go to bed, you should be looking back and say, what did I do today and how did that contribute to a better world? That's citizenship and character. And everyone that goes through here has to understand that.
So it's about also good stewardship. So it's the land. Well, it starts with yourself. It starts with your colleagues. It starts with the land. I mean, it was interesting for me to see it's a very sustainable ecosystem that you've created. You're recycling your organic waste. You are recycling your water. You are using solar where you can. And again, it's about that stewardship that you're teaching your students.
Yeah. So it's about, we are almost green here. And not only that, but we also grow food in the soil because the soil has got all the micronutrients. So we got the health of the person that's going to eat the food in mind. We make sure that we do everything as organic as possible so that we don't use synthetic chemicals and fertilizers because we got the health of the person in mind. So everything that we do is looking at how does this benefit someone else? How can we create a better world? So that when we finally leave, we should look at, we should leave this place better than we found it.
So if you look at EARN, I mean, so you established EARN as a private organization, so it's fully privately funded. Has the model caught the attention of government, of education institutions? Or is this part of the problem, you think, that this is not the way that traditional educational institutions and government in general is thinking?
Yeah, because you see, if we want to change the world, or we want to improve the economy of our country and the continent, we should start thinking differently. You see, when you are as a good leader doesn't bribe people with the things. A good leader encourages people to work, to earn. So what you're saying is, how can we work together to create something that you want so that you can have a better life? That's good leadership.
You made a very powerful statement when we said that any handout is not good for self-esteem.
No, because the handouts don't develop self-esteem. Doing it yourself does. And we got so much power within ourselves that we can do whatever we want to earn the life that we need. But someone has to encourage you to do that. And so the issue is that the way our brains are wired is that we want to follow the path of least resistance. So it's easy for someone to give someone a handout, because then people will be looking at you as the hero. It's much harder to train people to do something for themselves, knowing that once they know how to do that, they won't need to come back to you. And so it helps if we should make ourselves irrelevant by passing on everything that we know, all the skill we do, because then we'll have more people that will be like us. So if we want to duplicate ourselves, let's pass all the knowledge to other people. Let's give them all the skills they need and the guidance that they need so that they can do things the way we would ourselves. That's how we're going to grow our world. I mean, I'm in my early 60s now, and I don't know how much time I have, but all the things that I'm doing now, I don't know whether I'll be there to see them or not. But there's an African saying that says that society grows when old men grow trees in whose shade they know they will never live under. So we are doing these things, but not because we want to benefit from them ourselves, but we are doing them so that the people that remain behind are going to benefit from what we've left. And the whole idea is, how do we create a better world for our children and our grandchildren? Because they will still be here even when we are gone. And if we don't create a better environment for them, then it means that we will leave them with a poor world, and we may not rest in peace.
So I would almost say that this is a pilot project of a much larger vision, if I have to take a stab at it.
Yeah, because you see, like, if it wasn't for COVID, we should have, the whole idea was that if we got, say, 40 people, these are entrepreneurs. So you are creating 40 entrepreneurs a year. If each one of them can employ on average 50 people, because we're not developing smallholder farmers, we're developing commercial farmers.
Yes.
It means in 5 years, you have created about 10,200 jobs. Guaranteed. If not more. That's direct. But indirectly, for you to produce, you need people that can supply inputs to facilities, processes, and you have to have processing facilities and so on and so forth. So if you look at all other jobs, downstream jobs that you are going to create by using just primary agriculture, is you would have so many jobs that you create downstream.
The multiplier effect is tremendous.
Yeah, because and up and above that, because people have got the cash, other people that are doing other things now will have people that can buy from them. And that's how you grow society.
Yep.
Society, you cannot grow society by giving handouts. You can only grow society if people learn to produce for themselves and for other people. And that's what we need to encourage. So instead of saying, we'll give you a handout, we should be saying, how can you use your natural God's given power to produce, and we can give you access to funding. So if you look at how much money we spend on grants, you could use maybe 100th of that to develop entrepreneurs, and you take a lot of people off. So instead of people taking away from the fiscus, you have a lot of people that will be contributing to the fiscus, and will be using those resources to create a lot of infrastructure, whether it's roads, whether it's power, whether it's what. Because you've got a wider base of people that are creating wealth and are paying taxes. And those taxes are going towards the things that we want to create. And so if you've got good infrastructure, it means that we can have better roads in rural areas now, which means the people from the rural areas can now easily transport whatever they have into where the markets are. So we need to make sure that we are getting people to understand the importance of putting something in instead of taking out.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you mentioned that in the beginning, which is also for me a powerful statement, is that, I mean, if you become a giver, that tends to enlarge exponentially. But if you're a taker, it remains a very singular, one-dimensional road that you never snap out of that. I want to sort of move into one question that I want to ask you. So, I mean, South Africa land, which is at the heart of agriculture, is a political hot potato. So on the one hand, you have previously disadvantaged people saying is we want access to land. We need land where we didn't have access to land in the apartheid years. And you look at some of the schemes that's been implemented and they have not been successful. And I'd like to have your views on it. On the other hand, you have the commercial farmers are saying food safety is important. So you have the land, hot potato, and then you have new farmers coming on board as well that's saying is we're not being supported through finance, through all the other. So I think all three of them have valid concerns and have valid arguments. But in your mind, from what you've now experienced within your program, with what you've experienced in terms of the views of government and of commercial farmers out there, what do you think is the solution around land? How do you think we should approach land as a key resource in having this agricultural revolution, which this, in my mind, is a pilot project of?
I think the solution comes to looking at things holistically. Because I work a lot with people in the rural areas. People cannot just have land without being given the skills and everything else. So this program that we're talking about, that's why we looked at it. Let's have it at a 360 degree. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people that were helping us develop the young people that we developed just now are people with the farming experience. And so a lot of commercial farmers out there are happy to transfer those skills. But you cannot transfer skills freely when you are under threat. You need to make sure that there's security. You feel secure. Once you feel secure, you know that you can share everything that you have. So the first thing that we need to do is to make sure that we got a comprehensive program that is 360. And this is the one that we have where we give you business, technical skills, business skills. We would like you to have land. Because if I'm training you and I found the land, and then we are saying, okay, when you finish here, you're going to sit there. Mm. So if we are talking about land, let's have a program and we will have demarcated land that is not being used. And we are saying, when this program is over, everyone that comes from this program, they will know that they've got somewhere where they can settle immediately. Mm. And you got
so part of the graduation of this is the vision is to get to a point where sort of you graduate the entrepreneur and you give him the resources,
yes,
which is a combination of land, finance, support
the markets and all that. So it should be comprehensive. It should be 360 degree. So what we do is we will train people in agriculture, then we let them go, or we give them land and we let them go,
so
or we say we'll give you finance. So it's not holistic. It should be a holistic approach.
And farmers, coming from a family of farmers, you really are a jack of all trades. You have to be. You have to be an agronomist. You have to be a soil specialist. You have to be a human resource specialist. You have to be a marriage counselor. You have to be, because you're providing that entire ecosystem, in whatever piece of land you're farming. So it's a very holistic approach.
So instead of having them and us, we need to look at how can we work together to create a better country. And those that have got the requisite skills, I interact with a lot of them, and a lot of them are willing to pass that. Mm. So we need to look at how can we use the resources we have for the betterment of everyone. Those that are using the land productively, let them continue to use the land because we need food security. And not only that, but they employ a lot of people. Mm. If you take the productive land away from them, then it means that not only are you disadvantaging them, but all the people that were working there also suffer.
Which is what happened in Zimbabwe to large.
So you want to avoid that. That's why I was saying the scarcity mentality says, let's share the pie that you already have. Hmm. And when that happens, everyone wants to grab as much as possible because you think that the pie is shrinking. Instead, we should be saying, how can we create more pies? Mm. So what we're doing within EARN is saying, let's create more abundance by creating more entrepreneurs that can create these things from scratch.
Through skill.
By giving them skill, get them access to land because they've got the skill now. Yeah. Connect them to funders so that they can fund them to produce productively, but also give them the market because if you got the market, it will ensure that their businesses are going to be profitable and sustainable, which means whoever lends them money knows that they are going to get their monies back. Yeah. And so we need to have that holistic approach.
It's a very interesting, we spoke about it in the world of commercial farming and of smallholder farming, in my mind, can live in perfect harmony for the reasons that you mentioned. I mentioned to you a book that's completely in a different area of the world, the book's called How Asia Works. And the book documents the development of the key strongest Asian economies, being Japan, Taiwan, China, I think Vietnam is also there. And what the book has found is if that smallholder, broad-based agriculture that's not the base on which an economy is built, it tends to fall over. And I think, if I remember correctly, Malaysia was used, where they jumped over that critical pathway of development. Because smallholder farmer there's a couple of them that will become medium to large farmers. They would then start needing manufacturing of implements, and there's light manufacturing. Then there's heavy industry that comes on top of that because the skills are developed around manufacturing, and then high-tech manufacturing at the end of the day. So, and that's, if you look at Japan, it's probably a 60 to 80 year cycle that the country goes through. So coming back to the South African situation where we're pushing 50% unemployment. So what you are doing here with EARN is you're laying that foundation of not only just giving people land and having them just barely make a living. You're giving them the skills to start improving themselves, the land, their businesses, their communities, and so forth.
Yeah.
Which is the only way. And agriculture has got the ability to absorb so much unemployment.
Exactly. And also our vision is we are looking at not just being involved in just primary production, but beneficiation as well. So we are looking at fresh packhouses for fresh produce, but we are also looking at dried produce, food powders, and we are looking at establishing food blending. Because one of the problems that we have now and on the continent is that we produce raw materials that we send somewhere else. They produce a finished product, they send it back, and we buy that at higher prices, when we should be doing the whole value chain ourselves.
Yes.
So the vision for EARN is to make sure that we don't just teach people into primary production, but we need to look at how do we establish processing facilities so that we can go through everything from fresh produce to dry produce and the final product that we can sell all over the world. And that's what we should be looking at. And that, the food processing side also employs a lot of people. So all this, and it has got different type of skill sets. So you want to use the full skill sets that we have. So you may have a few people that are involved in actual primary production, but those people need to be assisted by people that are maintaining equipment, people that are supplying inputs, people that are processing the produce and transport logistics and all that, people that are looking at systems. So for instance, we are Global Gap certified ourselves, but we also use, say, farm management. So we got a few areas of agtech that we use. Just down, you can see that is a fertigation station. Each of these units has got, the computers can take up about 96 stations. So I can program each of these tunnels individually and get the different results and so on.
So using technology to become more efficient.
Yes. So using technology to be more efficient, but that doesn't mean that you reduce the number of people. You're just making them work smarter. So we can create, initially I said all of us are born geniuses. And so one of the things in our selection process is we got a very stringent selection process where we want to sift people into their natural space. And not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. A lot of people just want to work for someone else. So we got another program, which is the graduate development program, that develops just skills that can manage the operations. And then we got to the agripreneur development program, which is now developing entrepreneurs. So for entrepreneurs, you tend to have small batches of 10 each. But for the graduate development program, we can have as many people, we can have 20, 30, I don't want to go on. That's not a problem. When you combine the two, then you've got entrepreneurs that have got all these other skill sets you've developed that can help them to produce. And all that will eat into the unemployment. So, because the streets are full of knowledge. And in the past, we used to say knowledge is power. Now, knowledge is free. So knowledge is no longer power. But correctly applied knowledge becomes power.
The skill to apply.
So we need to develop the guys to have requisite skills so that they can apply the knowledge to create power for themselves.
So, looking at what's happening outside, and unfortunately those who are listening can't see what I'm seeing, but the success that in a very short period of time that you've now created here in this pilot project, what's the vision to now make it much bigger? What's the next step?
I think we need to work with government because they have the land and they may have some funding as well. So what is missing at the moment, because it's expensive. I mean, we've managed to absorb a few graduates ourselves that we've used our own resources to develop, but you can only touch so few because we don't have enough resources. So, but we've got the facilities. We have the knowledge. We have got 2 powerful programs that we've developed, which we can use to deal with the people. And if someone comes and funds some of these programs, we can absorb a lot of people. These guys that we had, we just left, the big portion of the cost was food, accommodation, and transport. So if you're going to, the ones that we have here, we give them a stipend so that they got transport and a bit of food, but they come from home. If I'm going to get someone from outside the province, I'll need the cash to accommodate them. And so if we work together with the big corporates and with the government and ourselves, we can create a lot of positive impact on the ground.
Yeah.
The issue is that we're ready and willing to do that because my team is very enthusiastic. We work sometimes 7 days a week and we are very passionate about what we do. But we cannot do it on our own without support from outside. There.
Yeah, and I think like you say, anybody listening, and we'll make sure that this comes onto the right platforms, is that walking up and driving up the driveway here is the neatness and the discipline that your facility here exudes is really commendable. I mean, it is world class in terms of everything that you see here. And I think what hopefully will come from this podcast is that we get that message out there. And I think it's going to be a combination of commercial farming, government organizations, NGOs, development organizations coming together around a vision that's clearly based on commercial viability and commercial principles, which is, I think, what was lacking in so many of the attempts. I think it's not because of a lack of trying in the last 20 years in South Africa, but I think it's just it's lacked commercial principles. It lacked sustainability.
Yeah. And that's why working together is important. Instead of looking at each other as being different, we need to look at, we've got a common objective.
Yes.
How do we use our collective effort to create a better impact for everybody? We've got a past. We cannot forget that. But the problem is that when you keep on digging the past, it tends to crowd the future.
You showed me a diagram just now, which is maybe you should explain because I think it's a very powerful vision.
See, that's why your car, the rear view mirrors are smaller than your windscreen. It's nice to look behind every so often, but we need to focus in front of us because that's where value is. So let's look at the past to teach us to what we should do in the future. But let's look at how we can go in the future together, use our collective effort, and create a better world for everybody. Because we all need each other in order for us to achieve the type of life that we want for ourselves and for our people. We cannot do that if we are divided. We can only do that if we are moving together as a collective. And we saw when we were developing these young people. I'm a mining engineer myself. I just learned farming just now. But we worked with a lot of experienced people in the industry that helped us develop these young people. And that shows you that you got a lot of people that are willing to impart their knowledge, because a lot of people who are old, they all want to leave something behind.
Yes.
So we need to tap into that.
I think there is a big willingness of people to share knowledge. I've rarely in my life asked somebody for help and knowledge and not received it. I think it is a natural inborn tendency to impart, especially when you're getting older, the wisdom that you've built up over your years.
Exactly.
I think on that note, I think it's a great vision, and I would like to commend you for what you've established here with EARN. I have the feeling you said you're retired, but I think your career too is just beginning. And
I think you see sometimes God works in mysterious ways, and all He has done is just reassigned me, because mining was not my life.
Yes,
I loved mining, but what happened in 2011, 2012 shifted me from what I was so passionate about into what I'm doing now. If what happened to me didn't happen, Anne would not be here. If I didn't go through that terrible health problem, I would still be in mining and Anne would not be here. But because of what happened is that now we are helping more people that wouldn't have helped if that. So sometimes when God wants to give you a gift, sometimes he tends to wrap it in a problem.
And it's interesting. I mean, that's a principle. I mean, I look at my own life as well, is that the things that I didn't get was probably better. It propelled me, or the things that was taken away propelled me to explore other avenues. If you're not kicked out of the nest, you're not forced to fly. And I think that's a critical principle for everyone. So I will post the website, Enterprise Africa Regional Network. So for anybody who wants to know more about what you've done, I know you did a very informative TED Talk as well quite recently. Yeah. So I'll post those in links, and we'll also post sort of the website with any interested student or any interested party willing to come alongside you in order to expand on this vision, because I think it's a worthy vision. It's a fantastic vision to expand on, and I wish you all of the best, and we'll be watching keenly and assisting where I can to try to assist you to try and make that vision a grand reality.
Thank you. Our training program is currently on agriculture, but we are into technology. So my son runs that, and African Technopreneurs is the major supplier of virtual reality equipment, both the 360-degree cameras as well as the headsets plus all the accessories. And
so the expansion, the vision is to expand it to more sectors.
Yes. So we are focusing on developing technopreneurs through what my son is doing now. And the whole company is run by young people under 30. My son is the oldest at 29, but the rest of them, I mean, there are about 7 of them now. And they run a very successful business. They're all young people. That's demonstrating what I was saying, is that you should take everything into your own hands. And so if African Technopreneurs is being run by young people, I wanted African Technopreneurs, which is in agriculture now, to be run by young people. That's why we are attracting a lot of young people to come in. And most of the ones that we put in positions of responsibility now, they are all young people. Because we want to go with that philosophy that you young ones should be able to take over. And we are giving them guidance. We're into property that we want to develop into hospitality long term. So 3 areas we're going to focus on is agriculture through African Technopreneurs, and technology through African Technopreneurs, and hospitality through African Lakeside Properties.
African Lakeside Properties.
Which are all running. So in 7 years, we've established 4 operating entities. NBIS provides all the business support services. African Technopreneurs does agriculture. African Technopreneurs does technology. And the African Lakeside Properties is into property. And we've done all that in 7 years. And we haven't yet gone out to go and look for external funding. So if we can do that, what you're trying to demonstrate is that funding shouldn't be the obstacle. You have to have a vision of what you want to do. Understand who your customer is. Understand what value proposition you can provide. And with that, if those 2 are very solid, out of that, you know that you with the right channels, you can attract more customers to yourself. And as a result, you are able to gain a lot of revenue. Funds will come in. I mean, we've had a lot of people that are asking us if they would like to fund us. And we are putting together bigger projects now that we should attract external funding. But up until now, for 7 years, we've been
self-funded.
We've been self-funded, and we've survived the COVID. We just brought in another 130 people during COVID. And this is my hobby, but I've got 150 people working for the company now, running 4 operating.
It's a very impactful hobby. All the best of luck with all your fantastic endeavors. We'll keep track of it. I hope I can come back in a year or 2 to come and get an update.
Sure.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Joshua.
Thanks, Nigel.
Thank you. Season 2 is brought to you by Eyesizwe Capital. Eyesizwe Capital is a leading private equity fund manager that through its 12-year history have focused on investing in African businesses with purpose and impact. For more information, please have a look at their website, www.eyesizewecapital.com. That is www.exeocapital.com.